All right, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar, Helping Business Owners Find and Win Capital Part 2. My name is Kathleen Rourke, and I serve as the Director of Engagement for People First Economy. People First Economy, Detroit Community Wealth Fund, the Center for Community-Based Enterprise, and Michigan Center for Employee Ownership are part of a collaborative of MEDC's SSBCI Technical Assistance Program. SSBCI stands for State Small Business Credit Initiatives. As we talk about that today, that is what we are referring to. This program serves to provide capital for very small businesses and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals as defined through the state's program. You'll hear more from each member of our collaborative during today's session, more on the resources they're providing and how to engage in those. If you missed our first session, so this is part 2 of a 2-part series that we are hosting around this topic. Our first session provided an overview of the State Small Business Credit Initiative, including who's eligible for that program, what kind of lending and investment structures exist through the program, how to seek the supports, and how to get started. If you're joining today's call and you missed out on our first webinar event of the series, you're not out of luck. We have a recording for you and more materials coming out. I'll put a link in the chat so that you can access that. And we'll be sharing a full digest of both of the event series out through some of our communication channels across the collaborative partners. So please stay tuned. From all of us at the collaborative, we'll be sharing some more information about this 2-part series here to come. Our session today is going to focus more on the equitable succession planning and exit planning models that exist across our collaborative, ways that you can jump into those, and the unique technical assistance that are going to be available through these collaborative partners. We'll have some time for a short Q&A at the end, so if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that, or in the Q&A feature that should be activated, and I'm happy to meet you there throughout the course of the call today. We are going to have today's call kickstart with Roy Messing, who is the director over at the Michigan Center for Employee Ownership. He'll kick off our conversation about employee ownership and exit planning models. Welcome, Roy.
Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, we're going to go through. Are you advancing the slides, Kathleen? Oh, I can do it. Perfect. Figured it out. We didn't try that. I'll give you a quick overview of what we're looking to do today. Very high level to begin with. We're going to talk about why all this is important, why you're hearing a lot more talk about employee ownership, exit planning. The silver tsunami is the first topic about the aging baby boomers, Gen X right behind them. We'll cover a little bit on the exit planning and options, and then we'll move into employee ownership. We'll dig a little deeper into MEDC's, or Michigan Economic Development Corporation's SSBCI program, and then we'll talk about our collaborative. And each member of the collaborative will give a little background to who they are, what they do. So the silver tsunami is actually here. It was coming, but it's here. We're well into the phase where baby boomers are retiring, and within the next 5 years, all baby boomers will be of retirement age. And so what does this mean if you're looking at it from the outside? Baby boomers hold half of the privately held businesses with employees in Michigan. And these are privately held businesses. If you look at the graphic, you see there's a wide representation of different industries where they are. And a lot of these business owners are going to be retiring. And what's going to happen to those businesses, the jobs in the communities where they reside? So we actually have a little graph here. If you hit that link, what you could do is it will actually drive you to our website where you could see how this impacts you in your community. There's a map. You hit your county, and it pulls up the statistics to see how you might fare. But small businesses make up the vast majority of firms. They employ about half the employees in the private sector. In Michigan, there's over 80,000 privately held businesses that are owned by baby boomers and Gen Xers that are going to be, exiting the business in the next 10 years due to retirement. That's 1 million employees and over $1 billion or over $200 billion of revenue. Something else about the baby boomer owned businesses. By the 2018 census, we found that people who are 55 and older, which, this is already 6 years old, the data 6 year old, 52% of those folks those folks own 52% of the Michigan's privately held businesses. So it's a wide swath of companies that'll go through this. Other things we know from surveys completed by financial companies and insurance companies and the like, 70% of these business owners don't have a succession plan. So they really haven't planned where they're going to be going. So that can add a lot of chaos to the situation. And those who put up any business for sale, they put it out to the public for sale. Only 20% of these businesses that are put up for sale actually sell. And there's probably a lot of correlation between, if you don't have a business plan, a succession plan where you're going, they're not as likely to sell. They're not ready for sale. So we'll dive into exit planning a little bit. And really, exit planning is part of the strategic plan. You're just trying to figure out, where am I going to go in the future with my business? And, as I get ready to transition out, how do I develop that so I can transition the business to the next owner effectively? But a lot of things that it does is really identifies the business owner's goals and helps you achieve your goals if you're actually planning. And then you develop a transfer mechanism to make that happen. So I'll just highlight a few things, but the benefits to the owner, it's strategic options. So you have many options to choose from. It helps you facilitate your retirement, and it gives you more control as you're moving forward of the process if you're planning, rather than trying to do it last minute. We're not going to spend a lot of time on all the exits, but there are some potential exits. Externally, you can have a strategic buyer, or you're a great fit for another company they can add on, and one and one makes three because they can gain more out of that. Financial buyer, somebody can just write a check and wants to step in. But if you don't do anything and there's problems with the company, you may have to liquidate or just close the company. Internal options, certainly family members, much less than historically. Partners, management. What we focus on is a broader base employee ownership model. And in those models, you can incorporate different parts of the other internal groups within that. So there can be a combination of the above on the internal transaction. So why employee ownership for a business owner? It's actually a great way to retain jobs and businesses. You're sharing some of the wealth, some of the the profits or the long-term wealth with the employees. So that's an incentive to help keep them around. They can be a partial. You don't have to sell everything to the employees right away, depending on the type of mechanism that you choose. And it really can create and maintain a legacy in the community. So if you're in a smaller community, a community where you really want to continue that impact, it's a great way to sell to the employees and maintain that legacy. Other reasons, typically the kids are gone. So we see in most cases, or I'd say far less than 10% these days, where the family, it just isn't around to transition it to. The employees know the business, as long as they've been engaged, or they can be engaged to bring it up. So they're very interested in that. And again, keeping it local is, if that's an important factor, we're hearing more and more people want to make sure it's local. The employees are local, they're far more likely to keep the business. So as I mentioned, employee ownership can include the other inside parties. And it really can be tailored to fit your needs. So, there can be a partial sale depending on where you're at in the process. Owner can retain some of the business for a period of time, so they can take some of the chips off the table, some of the money off the table. And then they can help guide that transition going forward to make sure that it's a smooth transition. Maybe they need to build up management so they can bring in some other folks and make that happen. Or it could be a full sale if the company is ready to run on its own. Most likely the owner's going to have to carry some paper because there just isn't enough way to get all the equity swapped out and take up enough debt to do that. In real estate, if the real estate is a critical part, it can either be inside or outside that transaction, depending on the circumstances. So that's very flexible on what you could do. We work with 3 types of employee ownership structures: employee stock ownership plans, or ESOPs. They're actually a qualified retirement plan. Pretty significant tax benefits can come with that. So you need some scale and scope. It meets the muster of IRS plus Department of Labor because it's much like a pension. So you have to have a company with some scale and scope to qualify for that. A worker cooperative, there's more individual engagement with those groups. The owners or the employees who buy in actually, they buy in, they take a share. That can either be through cash out of their pocket or through a payroll deduction. And the share values are set at a price that is affordable but meaningful. They want to make sure when they're setting that up, you can bring new people in pretty easily, but it has to be meaningful. So it's something that they really have to contribute. A newer model coming out of the UK, United Kingdom, employee ownership trust. Much like the ESOP, there's actually a trustful form where the shares, they buy the shares through the trust. But in the employee ownership trust model, the employees never get the shares, but they share in the net profit each year. So it's really designed to keep that company going forward into perpetuity. It's a perpetual trust, and that helps the company moving forward. But the employees are really, the main concern there. They want to make sure that they're well compensated and keep engaged moving forward. And as Kathleen mentioned, the Michigan State Small Business Credit Initiative, the SSBCI, Michigan Economic Development Corporation actually administers that. This is part of the SSBCI, is part of a treasury program, flows through the state into MEDC. And it's broader than just employee ownership. And employee ownership, it impacts a couple of very specific groups, very small businesses, 10 or fewer employees. And it also hits people who are in underserved communities, so more the socially and economic disadvantaged individuals. So certainly there's a wide range. We go through the process to figure out who qualifies or doesn't. Then we figure out where we go from there. But 2 core pieces of the SSBCI program: funding. There's funding programs, flows into banks, community banks, community development financial institutions, and there's also equity funds for startup companies. We're more concerned, or our focus is more on those bank products. And there's a variety of them. One that I just talked to an individual this past week on was a collateral program where MEDC takes money, puts it into like a bank savings program or a savings account, and then that's pledged against the loan. So if there's a collateral shortfall from a banking standpoint, this helps those companies that meet all the other parameters, but this can help that company get the loan because it can overcome the hurdle of a collateral shortfall. On the technical assistance side, that's who this group represents. Really, there's 3 areas that technical assistance can be provided: accounting, legal, and then financial planning and assistance. But there's a pretty broad interpretation of some of those, how those come together. And as I mentioned, there's 4 partners in our collaborative. And so the partners are all on the call today: People First Economy, Michigan Center for Employee Ownership, Detroit Community Wealth Fund, and the Center for Community-Based Enterprises. And so we work together, we help support each other, and then we also have our own clients. But it's a great collaborative where we really help these business owners start to look at their exit strategy. And we can do startups as well. Our main focus on business owners, but we help those business owners who can overcome the circumstances where they haven't been able to move forward. With this technical assistance along with the funding, we help get them across the finish line. So I think it's back to you, Kathleen.
Thanks, Roy. Yes, I want to welcome Karen, who will speak about the Center for Community-Based Enterprise.
Good afternoon, everyone who's watching. Thank you for having the opportunity to speak. And we are, yes, the Center for Community-Based Enterprise. Our acronym is C2BE. C2BE, that's how we say our name. It's a nice long one, and that's because we have built in community-based enterprise into the name of the organization. So we use community-based enterprise to mean a company with a sustainable revenue model, locally rooted, provides broad equity ownership, pays living wages, and shares resources with other CBEs. So that's the specific reason why we've got that kind of an odd name. People always ask us, why such a long name? The Center for Community-Based Enterprise. On the screen, you can see a little bit about, we've been established, we've been around since 2007. We have really been focused on community wealth through building cooperatives or anything that we call community owned. A co-op is community owned because there's a mutual ownership component to it. Roy sort of broke out the different kinds of employee ownership, which we're focused on today. And that's the biggest program that we have in terms of working with businesses and helping to teach them and even give them the opportunity to know that they can sell their business to their employees. It's very interesting that that's not well known and not taught much in business schools. So we have our work cut out, all of us, the four of us on this call today, just making sure people are aware. Roy does a big chunk of that. We help people through that process. So over the last couple of years, 2-year period, we've served over 91 businesses. Just to tell you a little bit about our volume. This includes businesses that have received education through our consultations, through webinars like these, case studies, city collaterals, and working directly hands-on with the business themselves. And out of those, 63% are minority or SEDI, one of the state words now for groups that are marginalized and have not always been getting the equity in from the economy as they should, from banks, et cetera. We have shifted under my leadership. I came in 2019 to really focus on businesses and look at their workforces that are Black and brown. So we are agnostic about who owns it. We work with any business owner, but we will look at the makeup of the workforce. So when Aaron talks after me a little bit about who we focus in, he'll dive into that a little bit more. Our goal is to create worker owners, and to do this, selling to your employees is one of the best ways to be able to, as Roy said earlier, it does a number of things. It keeps your legacy. If you've owned a business for many years, it keeps employees and jobs right there located. They remain in the community. As Roy noted, 20% of businesses that are put on the market actually sell. And so many times they just end up going away and nothing is kept. And of course, the tax revenue stays right there in that community, whatever that community might be. C2BE focuses on Southeastern Michigan, City of Detroit, Wayne County, Oakland County, Washtenaw County, Macomb, and we also work in Ingham County, which is not quite Southeastern Michigan, but these are the places where we work. So we are typically looking for business owners in those areas. And on the next slide, we just have that circle that shows what a lot of what our services are. And these services are all shaped around transitioning a traditional business as a business owner sells it to their employees. So we do pre-feasibility valuations. We use that term because it's a business valuation, but it's also looking at the whole management structure. So it's a larger set to help determine if it makes sense for your business or not. And then you can read along the wheel all kinds of feasibility, succession planning education, like a little bit about what you're hearing today. We have to talk to the workers at some point after we are squared away with the business owner and they decided they want to move forward. Then all the rest of them, accountant readiness, structuring is a big part of what C2BE excels in terms of whatever the business is wanting to do. As Roy stated, you know, a business owner can stay in, they can come out, they can stay in, like they don't want to leave work right away. They want to sell the business, but they actually want to stay in the business for a little while. You can do that, or you might be ready to go, you're done, and you want to move on. So however you want to structure that, C2BE can help you figure that out. And I'm going to pass it over to Aaron to say more.
Thank you, Karen. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aaron Jackson, Director of Client Services at the Center for Community-Based Enterprise, or C2BE. And just to follow up on what Karen was talking about, and as you've heard from our partners as well, there's many different modes of succession planning. And I would solely emphasize the value of you being aware of your different options. So that if it's, thinking about transferring ownership of the business to a family member, which is typically a child or close relative. It's common with family-owned businesses. Some of those positives are you get a chance to preserve that legacy and ensure the continuity of the business. But also some of those challenges are family conflict and challenges in finding a suitable family successor. Some of the other options are selling the insiders inside the business. That oftentimes is people in leadership, so a management buyout. And that's usually ideal when business owners, current business owners, are very confident about the capabilities of their management team, and they want to ensure the continuity of the business. Some of the pros of that option are there's often a smooth transition with leadership because they already know the business. They're able to preserve the business culture. Some of those challenges also include that those managers who are considering the buyout may struggle with financing the purchase, or there may be difficulty in internal power dynamic shifts. A few more options I wanted to make sure you all were aware of are options of selling to a third party. So this would not include that close family member or that relative, and it also would not include that management team buyout. This would include someone external outside of the business. Some benefits of this for the current business owner could be a significant financial return, but also some of the challenges could be loss of control of the business's future direction. The last two are a liquidation. So this might be a situation that could result from one of the services that Karen talked about after the conducting a feasibility, where it's determined that the business might not be viable for sale or succession. Or if the owner wishes to retire without continuing the business. Some of those pros, it provides a definitive end to the business, but also some of the challenges are the business owner may not get the size of the financial return they initially wanted compared to other options. And that last one, which is a space that everybody on this call is very passionate about, and the space that C2BE specializes in, is selling to your employees. So that is also a great option for business owners to consider. Some of those benefits often are motivating employees, enhancing their business performance, because they're not only workers, but they also have skin in the game as an owner. But also some challenges that come up are the complexity of setting up, but that's also why we're all here talking to you all today about the support and services that we can provide to reduce and eliminate a lot of that complexity. Next slide, Kathleen. And so the last thing I wanted to talk about with you all is how and when could or should a business owner think about tapping in or accessing some of these resources and services that this consortium can provide to you all. And so I wanted to talk about a few different scenarios and examples of statuses of businesses that are oftentimes the most feasible, and specifically in C2BE's perspective. The first one is the number of employees. So we often look for a set number of employees, generally starting at the number of 5, and that definitely impacts the diversity of skill set and expertise that comes to the table of potential owners, new owners of the business. There's also a big cultural and organizational buy-in from that. Some other things that are important when thinking about if tapping into these resources might be a good option for you are, what was the gross income pre-pandemic of the business? That helps with creating a good baseline for evaluation of the business. And that's another service that's accessible and available through this consortium. It's a good indication for the market demand, financial stability, and also helps support lender confidence if and when the potential buyers are going to be seeking external financing to complete the transaction. The last three, are the viability of the industry pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic. So we talked about what it looked like pre-pandemic, but what is it going to look like after the pandemic? What's the market and what's the demand for the products or services that the businesses offer? Last two, is this an established business? Do you have a proven track record? Some other great pros of an established business when thinking about these services and considering worker ownership is you already have operational systems and processes in place, as well as financial stability. And last but definitely not least, the mindset of the business owner. Are you a business owner who is considering what the next journey is going to be for you? What's the next career step? Whether that's starting a new business, entering the workforce as an employee or worker, or maybe it might be that transition into retirement. Whatever that mindset may be, those are a few options and spaces that oftentimes make a good situation for considering these types of services. And with that, I'm going to thank you for my time to speak. We look forward to hearing from you on behalf of Karen and myself. We thank you for this opportunity with C2BE. And I will pass it back to Kathleen.
Thanks, Aaron. Going to welcome Kiana from Detroit Community Wealth Fund to speak a little bit about their work. Kiana, we can't hear you yet.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you to my colleagues for providing a great overview of the current economic landscape for small business transitions and some options that are available to small business owners. I'm here on behalf of Detroit Community Wealth Fund, which offers innovative financing and technical assistance for businesses that are specifically catered to worker co-ops or businesses wishing to transition to a worker-owned model. My name is Kiana Silverman-Maddox, and I'm the Director of Organizational Development, and I'm excited to share more about what we have to offer. So Detroit Community Wealth Fund was founded in 2017 with the aim of providing education, finance, and technical assistance for cooperative businesses. We have a few programs for startups, including the incubator program. We have the Worker-Owned Detroit program for existing businesses, and we have a network for co-ops called the Cooperative Economic Network of Detroit. So where we get our investment funds is an organization that's nationally based called C Commons. They are a CDFI. They provide our underwriting criteria and additional industry expertise. We focus on impact and prioritizing those who have been historically excluded from traditional financing, including legacy Detroiters, blue-collar workers, BIPOC individuals, immigrants, those who are low income, those who have been formerly incarcerated, and LGBTQ+ folks. C Commons characterizes their investments as non-extractive. Simply put, this means that any group or individual that works with us will never be worse off for working with us. What's unique in that is that repayment is based on profits. So if business is not breaking even, no repayment is required. We also do not require personal guarantees for these loans and no credit scores. Instead, we mitigate risk by rigorously assessing the business plan of those enterprises, We help to improve the business plan with the borrower, and we work with the business after the financing to ensure that they have everything that they need in order to succeed. So the program for existing businesses that are interested to transition to workers is called the Worker on Detroit program. Typically in a worker co-op, the workers finance their ownership through an equity payment of their own pocket, but we step in and offer fair market value to the business owner on behalf of the employees. Again, we do this through extensive due diligence of the business and then ongoing technical assistance beyond the payment to the owner to provide the skills needed for those workers to take on ownership over time. So how do we make sure that this is successful? We provide really high touch technical assistance through repayment. We work closely with the bookkeepers to ensure that we understand financials, if there's any shortfalls, with understanding the targets of sales. We connect with industry experts across the nation through our peer network. If we haven't worked with that industry, chances are there's someone in our network who has, and we utilize those folks. We work closely with the workers to ensure that they have formal and informal training to provide them the skills that they need to make educated decisions and strategy that best impact not only their bottom line, but increasing their quality of life and work. And then what's great about this program is that we have the additional opportunity to invest more when they're on track for break even for repayment. If they require any additional capital or want to purchase equipment or acquire another business, we make sure that those funds are available to them. And we do have some resources available on the Worker on Detroit website, a succession planning toolkit, which contains some worksheets that will help owners identify their goals of their business and their personal life. There's some timelines about what to prioritize based on their goals. And there's also a local list of technical assistance providers based on whatever support is needed. We have one-on-one office hours. It's a good starting point to identify if your business is a good fit for worker owner transition. And we can also provide referrals for other professionals who may be of assistance. We have democratic workplace tools. We can also help you think through some equitable incentives to help retain loyal key employees. And then if you are interested in moving further, we can do a financial review and provide a business valuation for a potential price range of what that business would bring. And that is my contact information. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kiana. Appreciate it. We will bring it back full circle to Roy to share a little bit more about the Center for Employee Ownership.
Thanks, Kathleen. Yes, really, there's, I guess, multiple parts of the Michigan Center for Employee Ownership. We act as an outreach or an education-based entity. We work with a wide group of individuals. So we're working with business owners, chambers, business advisors, economic development groups, community groups. So we're doing a lot of outreach to spread the word on employee ownership. And then once the business owner gets to the point where they're like, okay, I really want to move forward, then we bring in the professionals. So we do a lot of referrals to attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, business appraisers, and that sort of thing, especially in the ESOP space. It's a much more complex transaction, so you have to have very qualified advisors. So that's our role at that level. And in regards, we thought we would zero in with the assistance that we could provide under the SSBCI TA grant from a financial standpoint, we can do a lot of forecasting, planning, modeling, analysis. We can do feasibility assessments. We have a tool that we can do actually business valuations. And then with my background in banking, a lot of loan structuring. So we do a lot of work with the business owner, try to find that right mix to make sure their transaction can move forward. And accounting, we can do some statement analysis. We can go through their books, help them identify and resolve, issues that they have from accounting practice, and maybe suggest how they might change that going forward to improve the overall operation. Legal, we aren't attorneys, but what we can provide is we can help outline what are those key decisions that a business owner has as they're going through all these different type of structures. Figure out what those decisions they have to come to, help them provide some guidance so they can determine, here's how I want to move forward with these different parts. They can take that to an attorney and minimize the cost, or qualified attorney, but minimize the cost because they already know what they want to do. At least they have a pretty good idea on what they want to do. And so they don't have to spend as much time. And again, back to when it comes time, we know what we can do. We know what we can't do. We get people in touch with qualified professionals, the ones who we know will do the job the right way for them. And I'm the executive director of the Michigan Center. You can reach me at the information there, or the QR code will help you. Just scan that and they'll send you to our website. I think the other thing that we want to stress, as a collaborative, all of us use this portal that PFE, People First Economy, has. It's an access to capital. So if somebody's coming to any one of the partners, or if you're just out there and you want to learn more, you can supply your basic information, very basic information to start. It's followed up by a call just to kind of get a sense of what the company is like. Does it qualify, for assistance under the SSBCI program? Then we get together, we review that, and determine what's the best fit. Who should help that individual, so we can help move them down the path to exploring employee ownership. If it's not a fit, we'll try to find other resources for the person to go. We don't want to recommend something that isn't advisable. So, but if it is a fit, we help get people moving down the path. Our services, many things we can do that there's no cost. Otherwise, we try to find other low-cost alternatives where possible.
Okay. Well, thank you, Roy, and for all of our speakers today, Kiana and Karen and Aaron. We really appreciate all of your time on today's call to share what the collaborative is doing, how to access the tools and resources underneath your organizations in this collaborative. And as Roy mentioned, we would love to help you get started on this access to capital journey. SSBCI is a large program where so many organizations and businesses can qualify, and our collaborative has this unique lens to support you getting there through employee ownership. If we can be a support, we would love to hear from you. Additionally, these resources are going to be available in a little while. After these calls, you should be able to have access to that first part 1 webinar where we really discussed what the SSBCI program is through the state, how to access that, the different types of funds available to small business owners, as well as the resources here shared today. So the links that were in all of our documents, we'll provide those to you as well through some PDF materials. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't believe, folks, that we had any questions come through the chat, but if questions come up from our attendees later on or through our materials, we'll make sure that we connect you to the proper folks on our end. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day.